Alright guys, welcome to the Chapter 7 Calculator tutorial. Today we're going to talk about finding the linear regression line, graphing the linear regression line, calculating the residuals, and also graphing the residuals. Okay, so to start off with, we'll need some data. We're going to use the same data that we used in Chapter 6. So make sure you watch that video to find out how to enter that data into a list and to graph a scatter plot of that data. So if you look at my calculator here, I already have that data in my two lists, list 1 and list 2, and I've also gone ahead and graphed that scatter plot there. Okay, so now we're going to want to do a linear regression on this data. Okay, so your data is in list 1 and 2, or whatever list your data is in. We're going to go ahead and press Stat. We're going to tab over to Calc, and we're going to select option 8, which is linear regression A plus BX. We're going to press Enter. On the old operating system, like you see on my screen, we're going to enter our two lists, list 1, comma list 2. So we're going to go into second list. We're going to select list 1. We're going to press comma. We're going to go to second list, and we're going to select list 2. If you have the new operating system, you're simply going to set your X list to list 1, your Y list to list 2, and you can ignore the other options for now. Now we can press Enter or Calculate, and you can see our linear regression equation is here. So we have y equals a plus bx. So a is our y-intercept, b is our slope, and we also here have the r squared value and also the correlation coefficient r. So there's our linear regression equation. Next thing, we want to be able to graph that linear regression equation. And so the steps for graphing this are very similar to finding the equation. So we're going to follow the same steps as calculating the linear regression from the previous slide, except this time we are going to go ahead and store our equation so that it can be graphed. So we're going to go back to Stat. We're going to go back to Calc, option 8, linear regression A plus BX. We're going to type in our lists again, list 1, comma list 2. And this time, instead of pressing enter, we're going to type in one more option, and that is we're going to type in y1, which essentially will say take this linear regression and plug it in for your y list number 1 or your y equation number 1, and then we can graph it. So to find that y1, you're going to click on vars or variables here. You're going to tab over to yvars. You're going to press enter on function, and you're going to select y1. And again, for the new operating system, that will be the option for store reg eq, store the regression equation. You'll select y1 as well. Now you just press enter. You get the same output as before, except now if you come over to here to impress y equals, you can see that our regression equation has been stored as a y equals equation in y1 here. And we can also press graph now, and we can see our regression equation. And as we expect, it goes fairly close to all of those points. Okay, so we've graphed our regression line. Now, next thing we can do is calculate the residuals. So to calculate the residuals, we can go back into our list by pressing Stat, Edit. So you can see our list here of year and tuition cost. We're going to tab over to list 3 and then up to highlight list 3. And then we're going to press second list and then go down to option number 7, which says resid, which stands for residual. We're going to press enter. So this says take list 3 and input the residuals. And this will automatically take the residuals and input them into list 3. So there are our residuals. That is our error between our observed value and our predicted value for each of those points. And now we have all those residuals. And the last thing that we want to be able to do is to maybe graph those residuals. So first things first, to graph these residuals, we need to go back in and turn off the graphs from our previous scatter plot. So I'm going to go into y equals. I'm going to tab over to the equals sign and press enter. And you can see that it's no longer highlighted. So that equation will no longer show up. We're going to go into second stat plot. We're going to go ahead and turn off plot number 1. And then we're going to go into plot number 2 and put our residuals in plot number 2. So plot number 2 we're going to turn on. We're going to select scatter plot. Our X list is still list 1, but now our Y list is the list that had our residuals in it. So instead of list number 2, we're going to go in and we're going to select list number 3 because that was our list with our residuals in it. And then to graph this, you can go into zoom and option 9. And if you press enter, that will show up your nice residual graph here. So you can look at the residual graph and use it to analyze any other patterns that might be present in your data. All right, so that is the information from Chapter 7 on linear regression and residuals.